Hi everybody, and welcome to another LinkedIn Live today with me, Poppy, the events manager here at Unibuddy. Today we're being joined by Liz Shepherd from Times Higher Education to talk to us a little bit more about her role at Times Higher Ed and also about the session which she'll be running at our conference. So hi Liz, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hello, and I was wondering if we could kick things off today by you telling us a little bit more about your role at Times Higher Ed. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for organising the session this morning. It's so exciting and such a great build up to next week's conference. My name's Liz. I am the Managing Director of Times Higher Education Consultancy Services team. So we work with universities globally to support their strategic needs and to help them to understand all of the different proprietary data that THE has the benefit of use of.
Great. I imagine you've been very busy the last 6 months.
Yeah, we've been very busy. And I mean, like everyone I know, we've done a huge amount of events and talking to colleagues in the sector. And it was actually last night at 3 a.m. we did an incredible event with universities in Australia and New Zealand. So forgive me if I look a little bit tired, but it was great to connect with that side of the world.
No, that's absolutely fine. I had a meeting myself early this morning with the University of South Australia, one of our partners speaking at the conference. So I know all about the sleep deprivation. It's worth it. But at the conference, you're speaking with your colleague Patrick Hayes, the Chief Development Officer at Times Higher Ed, on our main stage at 1 p.m. Singapore time. And I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit more about that session.
Yeah, sure. Patrick and I are both incredibly excited about the session, and for us it's a real first. THE has just launched THE Student, which is being led by Patrick, our Chief Development Officer, and it's a brand new proposition for THE, reaching out to and supporting the global international student community. As part of THE Student, we have launched an international student panel. This panel will give us and is beginning to give us the perspective of international students from all over the world. We have surveyed and are in the process of surveying students from our panel for the first time. And we will be presenting this data at the session next week. So it really is a very exciting time for my team and for Patrick.
Oh, fantastic. It's really exciting, I think, with the conference like this, because so many people have done new things in the last 6 months, and we're at that point where all that research and data is coming through. How many students are on your panel? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's growing every day, and we have several thousand.
Wow.
It's really exciting starting an initiative of this kind, because what we're learning is how to engage with our student panel and the community, how to understand where they are in their journey, and how not only can we support them via THE Student, but also how we can gather so much incredible data to support universities around the world. So yeah, it's very exciting, as literally day by day my team are downloading all of the data, working behind the scenes to see the response that's coming in.
Fantastic. I mean, I can't wait for the session. I'll definitely be awake at 6 o'clock UK time for any early birds in the UK like myself. And I can see the link to book your place has just popped up on the screen here if anybody else is getting quite excited about the conference. But Liz, I was just wondering, would you mind sharing, are there any kind of snippets or sneak peeks into that research that you wouldn't mind sharing with us today?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, the data's still coming in. And I know that Mark, one of my colleague who is managing all of this alongside me, we've been discussing this morning, looking at the response. But broadly speaking, what we're trying to understand via this first survey of our panelists is how the pandemic may have impacted their study plans. So really sort of focusing on the impact of coronavirus. I know there's lots of surveys that have been conducted, and there's lots of data, a wealth of data that we can look at. But what we've really tried to capture very simply here is if prospective international students' plans have been delayed, changed, or cancelled. So we're trying to capture that very, very simply. And this is for a number of reasons. First of all, if students' plans have been delayed, and we can understand the the different countries that they were hoping to study in. We're hoping it'll give us a sense of exactly how universities are responding to the pandemic, how they're trying to accommodate international students, how they're trying to change and respond to the ongoing dynamic situation. If students, have changed their plans, what we're hoping this will give us insight into is the potential disruption to international student flows. It's really, really interesting that we can see currently, again, really early insights that just over half of our respondents so far have indicated a slight disruption and a delay to their international study plans. Just over 30% suggest that they've changed their plans. And this for us is really exciting. So we can potentially begin to see the shift in the movement of international students where, for example, once they may have been aiming to study in, for example, the United States, but they've changed their country, the country that they're aiming to study in, and redirected that to aim to study elsewhere. And finally, we're trying to understand the proportion of students who have cancelled their international study plans entirely. Here, this will give us a really interesting insight into what they then see as that alternative. Are they then studying in their home country? And do they see this as an alternative, and why? So yeah, some incredible insights, and we can't wait for the final data to share with everybody. Some additional information that we tried to capture of this cohort of international students is how their perception of studying online. So if their plans have been delayed, cancelled, or changed, how they perceive online learning, purely online learning, not blended or any sort of combined approach, but purely online learning, how they view that as an alternative to international study, to add a richer dimension to the discussion. And finally, the final part that we're aiming to capture is of those students who are determined to still study overseas despite the impact of coronavirus. Why this is so important to them. Why, despite the unprecedented is the word that we've heard so much over the past number of months, every day, certainly in the British news media, why this unprecedented situation, why despite that, international students are determined to study overseas. And hopefully we'll gain some really interesting insights into the strength of the proposition of overseas study to support universities to understand that it's still, we hope, seen as so valuable for international students.
That sounds more insightful than anything I could have thought of for this conference myself. It's really interesting, I think, having the mapping of students and a more kind of operational perspective combined with the emotional side. I think looking at, not just what students are doing and where they're moving, but also, the conversations, I think we're at over 6 million messages shared on our Unibuddy kind of peer-to-peer platform. And that,
I can't wait to see that session.
We're sharing some of those insights, because I think it's those emotional insights that sometimes when you look at the data, you can kind of forget about. But I love that your research combines the emotion and the more pragmatic operations of things. So no, that sounds great. And for our attendees, I think, oh gosh, in my notes, I put 1,000 attendees. I think we're up to 1,200 bookings now. They're going through the roof.
That's incredible.
So no, please don't get nervous. But for that vast audience, from universities all around the world, what kind of top key learning do you think they could take away from this session to help implement into their day-to-day work?
I think two things really that we hope to be able to contribute to universities globally who are, as we talk to them, the universities that we work with and our close colleagues, we hope to be able to help them understand how student flows, both at home in their home country and internationally, are being impacted by the pandemic, to give some insight into what students are thinking so that they can plan with confidence and add our data into their decision-making processes and their strategies as to what may happen with international students going forward. And the second thing, I think, what Patrick and I feel very passionately about is why international study remains so important to international students, and why we hope to be able to show that this is such a valuable experience that students and young people all over the world will still value despite the impact of the pandemic.
Fantastic. And I guess, I mean, that sentence you said about planning with confidence, that's something universities haven't been able to do for so long. So to have some data and some form of certainty in, like you said, unprecedented times, it must be really insightful. So yes, for anyone who's interested in the session, it will be live at 6 a.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Singapore time. And we'll also be popping a recording of that in our virtual goodie bag. So please do sign up to the event, and even if you can't make any of our sessions live, you'll be able to access them afterwards. One more question, Liz, before we go. Are there any other sessions you're excited about for the conference? I'm sure you'll be tuning in for the full 18 hours with me.
Well, the programme is incredible. Congratulations to the team. You have it's a huge feat. I know the incredible events team at THE pull this off time again, and I know how much time and effort this goes into. So congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
From my view of the programme, I'm really looking forward to the 60-minute messages session.
Yeah.
Just to see that data, to see what that looks like. It's absolutely amazing. And also the Think Like a Startup session from the University of Leicester. I think that looks I think that's brilliant. I think that hits so many of the right notes. I think it sounds like it's going to be really a really great workshop session. Is that correct in the programme?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I was in the
great discussion.
rehearsal yesterday. So that session is with Josh, our head of operations, and Elliot from the University of Leicester. And it's a great dynamic, kind of what university is not just thinking like a startup, but I think it's shaping into a session about what we can learn from each other. Really interesting to share kind of business and management learnings across two very different ways of working, really. But no, great. Thank you, Liz. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. But I can't wait for your session. And thank you so much for joining us today on LinkedIn.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And thanks to everyone at Unibuddy. We're really looking forward to it.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.